All right, everybody. I had a lot of fun with that last diagram, so I thought I'd make a new diagram. And these two diagrams are definitely, I think, related to each other. We're still, I think, dealing with video games here. I am a video game scientist, Enrique Zoltano, video game scientist. And so, like in the last diagram, we asked the question, if hard times hit, what would happen societally? But what's going to happen on an individual basis, right? You have to ask the question of who are you, right? Who am I? Who is man, right? Now, there are several different answers, obviously, that are floating out there nowadays, and some in the past, and many more that have not been thought of. But one of the ways that I like to do it is by just looking at traditional virtue. I think, like in a lot of stories nowadays, traditional virtue is looking at the human being through traditional virtue is a weakness, right? The virtuous are weak, right, and the wicked are strong, right? And this is our Machiavellian times that we're living in. But that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start with love. I'm gonna pick a color, and love is purple. It looks like. Love. There it is. Boom. Okay, you know what? I like using different colors, so I'm gonna pick another one. Okay, so what is love? Oh my God, what a question, right? How would you answer that question? Now, if we wanted to give like the most general definition on what love is, then we could just generally say that love is positivity towards another, right? But let's start to think of different characters, right? There's this one cartoon called Looney Tunes, not the old 20th, early 20th century Looney Tunes, but the modern 1990s Looney Tunes. There's this character called Elvira, and she just loves animals, right? Oh my God! And she just loves them and loves them and loves them and loves them, but she's abusing them, right? And so, like, maybe from here we could make a distinction between intent and behavior, right? The animals that she's loving, she has positive emotions towards, but she ends up physically abusing them. So her behavior, you could say, doesn't match her her intent, right? And so there's this type of love out there that's very controlling, right? Now we're about to get into narcissists, but I think there's a distinction here, and Elvira could obviously be a type of narcissist, right? I think I'm going to talk about two different types of narcissists here in a bit, but like this Elvira could be like this controlling type. Now, obviously, I think all narcissists are controlling. But I think the distinction between Elvira and some other narcissists is that she is focused on another while the narcissist is focused on themselves, right? It's like she's trying to forcibly uh, force and shit. Um, but I don't know. What do you guys think? But from here, we're gonna just move on to, we're talking about positivity towards another. But narcissists, when they speak positivity towards others, but they really only have positivity towards themselves, right? Um, Now we could talk about two. Okay, these are the two different types of narcissists, right? We could talk about um, narcissists. Um, so boom, we have love, we have a narcissist, and again, this could just be a different type of narcissist. But within the narcissist, I do believe that there's some narcissists out there who are insecure, and they're injured children. They had bad parents and bad growing ups. There was abuse and stuff, and so because of this bad upbringing, they um, they're so insecure that they have to focus on themselves in order to prop themselves up, and so these are injured children. But there's some narcissists who are just like, look at me, right? So I think there's distinctions to be made, definitely. Okay, so now we're gonna go to self-sacrifice. All right, there it is, self-sacrifice. Now, we're talking about love here, positivity towards another, and we're talking about the type of man who gets up every day and he goes to a job that he hates, but he's doing all of this because he loves his family, right? Which, I'm sing-songing all this because some of the times, he's just being utilized as a tool, right? And they don't really love him, and he goes through his midlife crisis and yada 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 yada. Sometimes they don't ever see reality, but yeah. So you have characters out there who are self-sacrificing, but I mean, in like their intent is a lot of times just so pure. Like these are a lot of times just such tragic figures. I think Batman is definitely in this category. He's this tragic figure of heroic work and heroic love. Because from here, we're going to go to equality. Right? And equality just simply means that, like, if you're going to sacrifice your life for someone else, then you would only respect them if they also sacrifice their life for you. Because this is about respect, right? This is like a beautiful family is a family that fights together, rather than a family where you have the man fighting for the family, right? This would be the self-sacrifice man, right? But why should not the women and children fight for you too and fight for themselves, right? Um, Fight for themselves too, right? Because you're trying to raise your child, and I mean, don't you want your child to survive somehow and get stronger? So if you're enabling their weakness, like you're enabling the weakness of a woman to just be the prize of a violent man, um, then I would say that the equality is the best type of love. The self-sacrifice is very pure. The intent is very pure, right? But you could just say, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do," right? Um, but I think this is definitely one of the best routes of this so-called positivity towards another, right? Do they have positivity towards you? You're right. Um, so now we're gonna go to. Let's get another color. All right, pink. What's up, pink? What's up, pink? And we're gonna do love a thing, okay? Because we're talking about positivity towards another. Pink, come on. All right, that's not working. There we go. Okay. We're talking about love, right? Positivity towards another. Another could just be general and vague. So another could be a person or a thing. So love a thing, right? I think we all know what that's all about, right? Let's see, a man and his tools. Okay, so if let's start with a man and his tools. Okay. So we're talking about loving things. Now, why would a man love his tools, right? It could be that this man loves creation, right? He loves the work in and of itself. And if he loves the work in and of itself, regardless of rewards in the ever after, then this would be I think this would be a pure type of loving a thing. There's a purity there, I think. Because he likes to create, whether or not he gets rewards in the future. But you could have a man who loves his tools because of money, right? He wants money, and these tools make him some money, right? Or you could realize that your tools are able to get you resources, right? And the more resources you have, the more access to unfree vagina you have, right? So yeah, your tools could mean that you're just getting more you're just getting more pussy. So boom, there it is. um Now, we could talk about a woman and her makeup, right? So we're still on loving a thing. Um. Oh no, wait. This is wrong. Let's see. Let's combine this and do a man and tools. That's very badly written, but boom, there it is. All right. So now we're gonna break off from here and a woman and her makeup. So, I think this is probably just more repetition. But even though it's repetition, we're talking about two different sexes here. And so I think one of the best ways to describe a woman is with the word spirit, right? A woman has spirit, right? While men are just a bunch of tools. um, and so there's nothing wrong with people wanting to look good, right? There's nothing arrogant or vain about you wanting to look good. I personally think it's about wholeness. This comes into the dirtiness and cleanliness discussion. It's fun to be dirty. It's fun to be clean. It's fun to dress up. It's fun to just bum around. You don't have to fucking make up yourself up all the time, right? So it's about wholeness. So if you're of the very conservative type, you might think, oh, all women who put on makeup or who want to put on makeup are vain, right? Well, that's not true. Some of them do it because they love the spirit, and sometimes there's spiritual things hidden beneath the physical. Um, so I mean, we'll do pure and whore, right? And that's pretty self-explanatory, right? Anyways, let's move on. Greed, okay? Now we kind of already touched upon this on his man and his tools. But, this greed discussion, like a man and his tools is a subset of the greed discussion, probably. So there's a connection. But the greed discussion is more more broad, I think. Yeah, because we're talking about loving a thing, right? And I started with a man and his tools, and I started with something that was good, right? Because anybody who believes that, oh, if you love a thing, that must be bad, right? But I started with a healthy love of things, right? But greed is obviously an unhealthy love of things, right? And it's green, believe it or not. So just greed right there. Love a thing. Yeah, no, this was definitely be an unhealthy love of things. But before we continue, I've noticed in the world, like I met this one guy one time, and man, this guy just talked and talked and talked, and he was kind of unhealthy, but he knew a lot about rocks. He knew a lot about different products. So if he sees something that he can buy and resell, he knew a lot about that product, and he knew what it was worth, and he knew he kind of had this love of learning, um, and this love of learning about human creation, right? And this his love of learning of human creation, and just his also love to just like talk to people and shit. That made him um, a kind of like a natural merchant, right? But he wasn't a bad guy, because we most of the time we think of merchants and we think, oh, they're a bunch of fucking assholes. So not necessarily everyone who has a greedy appearance is greedy, right? Not all merchants are greedy. There are some merchants who are not like the other types of merchants that we all love to hate. There are some real pure ones out there, I believe. Okay, and again, we're all talking about love right now, so this is just like, what's going on? Now, obviously, we're talking about positivity towards the thing. We're talking about love, so we obviously have to talk about sex. Sex, respect, inconsistency. So, I mean, sex is pretty simple. I think either you respect the person you're having sex with, or you don't. um, if you don't, that's you're having sex with a bad guy, And when I say bad guy, I'm using that genderlessly. But if you're having sex with someone that you don't have respect with, then that's a bad one. So, I mean, yeah, no, that's pretty simple. On the surface of it all, right? Because this is just a diagram, right? Who cares about this diagram? But shit, I don't know. It's just all pretty simple, but not, right? That's why we're doing this diagram. Okay, but so here we are in this diagram, and we're trying to discover what does it mean to be a human, right? And we're trying to do that through the lens of virtue, right? And so we're focusing on love right now. Now, we could keep going, right? I'm the half-assed prophet. So I mean, what is positivity towards another? Like, oh my God, this is just such a terrible diagram. But there's there's a problem here, right? Because if we're talking about individuals, right? If we're talking about individuals, then you may love person A and hate person B, right? And so to person A, you have the good type of love. You have either equality or self-sacrifice. Because the intent here is beautiful, although the execution is pathetic. And so you have a good type of love for one person, but you could be jealous towards another. Or you may love one guy because he has white skin, or you may love one guy because he has black skin, and you may hate another guy because he has black skin, or you may hate another guy because he has white skin. Right? So there's this inconsistency that happens within an individual, which completely makes this diagram bullshit. Because most of us aren't going to be one or the other. Most of us are going to be all to one degree or another, in one way or another, right? And when we want to talk about one way or another, we're going to be talking about thoughts shaping behavior, right? Thoughts can shape behavior, right? So if you grow up hating white people, or if you grow up hating black people, then these thoughts are now shaping your behavior, right? And there's this inconsistency of behavior. And this inconsistency of behavior turns all of this on its head, right? Because if we're talking about individuals, then you are all of these love things to one degree or another. You may have a healthy love towards one tool and an unhealthy love towards another thing. You may be greedy sometimes and self-sacrificing at other times, right? So as far as inconsistency is concerned, we're also talking about a divided heart. So one of the things is thoughts shaping behavior. And so that would, racism I used as an example. But you could also talk about a divided heart. You could talk about oh yeah, well, let's go back to the thing. You could just simply talk about what is it? Jealousy, right? Jealousy would be a divided heart. You want to love others, but there's just this one person whom you're jealous towards, and so your heart's divided. It's like you wanna love others, but oh my God, this one person makes you not want to love them for what other insecure, pathetic reasons you have within you. And so if we look at this diagram and talk about these inconsistencies, then this diagram right here is totally incomplete, right? This diagram is two-dimensional, right? And when you bring in these inconsistencies, then you realize that this diagram can only truly be understood in a three-dimensional space, right? In that you are judged not for who you are as a person. Are you, the good type of love? Are you the controlling? Are you the narcissist? Are you the self-sacrifice? What's going on within you? Like, you're not judged as a person, you're judged by each individual act. Right? And within each individual act, you're going to have all of these different factors that are coming into play, right? So if we want to bring this back to a video game discussion, it's like, let's say hard times happen. What are you going to do? Well, oh my God, what are you going to do is completely dependent on each specific action, right? And I think this analysis of human beings is just so much more simple yet complex than a modern day psychobabble thing. What is man? Are we the sum total of each act? Or is each one of us only the now? How do you equate the present good with the past bad? Or the present evil with the future good? Like, who are we, right? Seriously. All right. Now, so we're examining people through the lens of virtue, and from here we could just talk about other virtues, right? People believe love is a virtue. People believe that bravery is a virtue, right? Now, what is bravery, right? We obviously, a lot of people, when they think of bravery, they're going to think of the battlefield bravery, the guy charging the lines, rah, I'm a hero. But, there's also another type of bravery. I think, well, obviously we talked about, did we talk about? No, we didn't. So, like, standing up to your friends or your family when they're doing wrong, that takes a different type of bravery than charging the enemy lines, right? That is more of a social bravery, to stand up to your friends and family when you think they're doing wrong. That is more of a social bravery, right? La, 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 la. So now we have a social bravery. But we could break this up, right? And we could distinguish this. What does social bravery mean, right? Why are you being socially brave? Why are you standing up to your friends and your family? Now there could be a couple different explanations. One is that you have compassion, and you don't want to see them mess up, right? And you're trying to correct them, most likely, right? To get them onto the good path, but they may not like what you have to say, right? Obviously. But there's definitely this, compassionate type of social bravery. But you could take someone who is saying the same things that the compassionate person is saying. Like they're making the same arguments, saying the same things, but they just want to hurt people. Right? There's people in this world, and there's that desire within all of our hearts to either want compassion or destruction. Right? And sometimes, we just want to harm, unfortunately, right? And so, there's different types of social bravery. Then there's battlefield bravery, right? Battlefield bravery, I'm a man. Battlefield Field. And let's see here. Hero, suicide and harm. Hero, suicide and harm. Alright, I think that's all pretty self-explanatory. You could have a man who charges battle lines because Achilles and Alexander are their heroes and they're gonna go out there. I'm a man. Right. Or you could have a guy who realizes, he's hit his realization that all the people that he's self-sacrificing for are just using him as a tool. And this guy could just be suicidal. Be like, oh, fuck it, I don't care. And then obviously you have your warriors that like to cause harm, right? But in my thing, I'm claiming that we all like to cause harm and we all like to be heroes, right? This is a choice that we all can make and that can all feel pleasurable in its own way, depending on the orientation of our heart. And so this is all, and again, we go back into that 3D discussion, right? I mean, we're all of this, right? When it comes to bravery, to one degree or another, to one way or another. And again, this is just a half-assed thing. Like, oh my God. Totally half-assed. Now, if we want to, because we're talking about 3 dimensions, right? If we want to talk more about the three-dimensionality of all this, we can talk about degrees. So, if you ever do a brave act and you're not used to doing brave acts, then you're going to be scared. Your hands are going to be shaky, your voice is going to be shaky. But sometimes that's when you're most brave. Oh my God. It's at the beginning of bravery. But the more you do brave acts, the less shaky you get. So there's degrees to all this shit. Right? To all of this shit, there can be degrees. Right? And we can definitely see this in this heroism, I think. Or just, not necessarily in some of the things I was saying, but hero, just pure brave acts, no matter your heart's orientation. But the more you do quote unquote brave acts, the easier it will get. And so that brings degrees bring another 3-dimensionality to this diagram. Okay, so, we're talking about bravery, and so let's, talk about emotional bravery, right? Now, you might have a man who is willing to charge the enemy lines. I'm a hero. But this same man would never have the bravery to talk to a girl. How's it going? The weather's nice. I love you. And so, boom. I mean, here we see just all these different types of braveries. And how many more braveries are there, right? I don't know. I don't care. But this is interesting, right? I mean, you could talk about, a father who doesn't want to say I love you to their child. Like, I love you too. This is most likely the self-sacrificing type, right? Emotionally arrested people, I guess. Um, so, I mean, but we could keep going on with all this, right? Because we could put more virtues up there. We can put wisdom, definitely. But what are the other virtues? I think patience is a virtue, right? You go all into patience and examine that. But it's like sometimes some of your virtues to me are vices, right? And that's what I'm saying in this. Like, if you're self-sacrificing, then that's not healthy, in my opinion. But it's going to be healthy in your opinion, obviously. So it's like, who are we, right? And one of the reasons I like this diagram is, for me, this is just a so much more interesting view of humans. This classical examination of what we call morals and virtues is so much more interesting in characters and in stories. Than the modern psychobabble stuff, and there's a lot of great, interesting things within the modern psychobabble stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're a story writer and you write characters according to psychobabble analysis, then I think they're going to be dry, dull, and boring. And I think this classical analysis of the human character, thought of three-dimensionally, definitely. If you think of this stuff one-dimensionally, right, then, it's all going to be stupid. Or think of it two-dimensionally, right? It's all going to be stupid, definitely. But when you bring in some more complexity to all of this stuff, things I think can definitely get interesting. But at the end of the day, I think we just simply love stories where characters love one another, right? We love stories where we see bravery, and I think a lot of modern story writers and character creators just simply, don't care. You have George R.R. Martin, who tells us that Ned Stark and his ways of morals and virtues, that's not the true way, right? So George R.R. Martin's character analysis is going to be, just different than all of what I'm saying. Because evil is successful and good is stupid, right? But not. Because, I mean, don't we all love stupid, self-sacrificing Ned when he gets his head chopped off? Like, doesn't our heart bleed for him? But when any of the other, like, fucking nasty characters die, we're like, hell yeah, fucking I hated that person. So I think a lot of story writers are diseased within their own thoughts. Because, there's just this modern idea that is promoted by the population controllers that want to tell us that immorality and vice is strength. And they want to tell us that immorality and vice is strength because that's actually the true definition of slavery, is immorality. While the true definition of freedom is virtue. And it doesn't matter if you're successful in this world and yet you died a slave. Well, on the other hand, you're unsuccessful in this world, but you die free. This is totally different character analysis than many of the greedy analysis and evil analysis of characters that we have in our day. So, and again, you bring this back into the video game discussion, and I mean, how would you program all this, right? How would you program all this? Seriously. Like, if you wanted to program a society like this, because we're talking NPCs, right? How do you program these NPCs to be quote unquote more realistic, right? And I think that's what this diagram attempts and yet fails to do, because I'm a half-assed. I could easily succeed in anything that I want, but I mean, how would you program all this? I've like a minute left. How would you program all this? Because like if we bring that last discussion into play, then I mean we have like society and individual, right? And we're talking about NPCs, right? So we want to program the NPC to be more realistic.